Good morning. How is everyone this lovely January day? And Happy New Year to everyone. We're having a nice sunny day for a change here. We've had quite a bit of rain and overcast and fog, so hopefully you're back, you're ready for a new year and a new project. I'm excited to do a project that I think it's going to be a little bit quicker and easier and a lot of fun to do and to play with this next year. I'm trying to get my ducks in a row here. Hi, Sherry. Wisconsin, are you frozen? I saw lots of snowy pictures on the news. So, welcome and good morning. Hi, Barbara. Louisiana, raining there. That's what I hear. I'm not so big on weather stuff, but my husband is a little bit of a weather guru. So, glad to see you guys here this morning. Everyone, go ahead and pop in and let me know if you are starting the sewing process with me, just to get an idea from my end. So, not much snow. Well, that's good. With that. Snowy in West Michigan, I bet it is. For those years I lived in Michigan and had lots of snow. So, I can believe that. In Colorado, we're from all over the place. Good. Well, welcome this morning. We are going to be doing the Kona pattern. And this is it with the white background. And I just put the white background up for right now because it is just easy to see on my computer and with that and get a real good picture of it. We will be doing the top, center, and third row down on the far right. Today we're going to be talking about that, but I want to get to, and I would really like to know how many of you are doing white, gray, or black background if you are participating in making this quilt, at least now or maybe sometime in the future. This one gives those fabrics a real jewel tone look to it, and love the black background as well with that colorful border. It just gives it just a lovely punch on that. I'm going to be doing the white background on this quilt. I have another one similar to this with black background, so I thought I'd try something different this time. Okay, so I see a few black and grays. Janet, I'm interested in seeing how your gray comes and how you like that. Consider doing white but considering black. Well, when you get to that point, it could be fun to figure out which you might want to do. All right, I want to drop down to the table right here. And so we get these little cards for each month, and we're going to do at least 2 blocks a month, because this is a quick block of the month with this. But this pattern is really really nice in the fact that it's repetitive in some ways, and how you can take a half square, triangle, and a square and create so many different possibilities, and also just the repetitiveness of it and the effectiveness of how well you get to that. The back of this card that has the pattern on it is the cutting instructions for the finishing and how to assemble the quilt. So that's not going to be until we're finished with this in about 8 weeks. So I want to talk a little bit about the fabrics that you are going to be working with in each packet. I have chosen my fabrics for January and for February, and as you can see, they're a little bit different in that. And I was thinking in terms of also the month. January being, midwinter, and, that cool and kind of dark days that are kind of dreary in January, and starting to move into February where we get a little bit more light and that type of thing. So here is my January packet, and I'm going to be following what they did in the pattern with the fabrics and the numbers, and they give you the palette numbers on your packet. And so I took all of the fabrics, and you're going to get repetitive fabrics, so you'll have maybe 2 or 3 of the same one, at least 2 for sure, in the same packet. And I put them out on my table, and I want to, let me move this out of the way for a moment. And just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, hopefully, and, kind of started separating them by, a little bit of the brightness of them, and those that were a little bit duller in color. And as you can see, there's some real differences. This one almost looks blue, but it's kind of a teal. And this one almost looks black. And if you understand anything about color theory and how, fabrics are put together and made, you know that we have things, in our mixing, the mixology of it all, is that you have tones and tints. You have, the pure color, which for dyeing and in fabric, it is cyan, magenta, and yellow. For, paints and art, it is red, yellow, and blue. And so we get a little bit different with dye for fabric. So dye and the paints change a little bit. So as I was looking through here and considering my background of white, I started seeing, that some of them had more of a tone, kind of a bluish background to it, and in the teals family. So mixing a little bit of that blue and yellow, and in some of these colors probably a little touch of the magenta in it. And because it being January, I decided to go with those cooler colors and stick within that. As I was putting some of the brighter, clearer tones in, it was starting to kind of rankle me a little bit because it just didn't feel right. And then when I got to these and I put them up against, the white, let me grab some white here. And I was looking, there is contrast, but not a lot. And so I was, kind of wondering about these. And one of the things that I may still do, I cut it to do it the way the pattern says. But I'm actually thinking, because I have these light ones, it seems, in most of my packets. And I want to show you here in the January pattern, let me grab this, that inside these patterns, and even here, within the pattern, and not, necessarily the border of it or part of it, I could use some of these light fabrics that, so here I could put this green in, and I think I'm going to try it and see what I think as I, make a couple of these and check it out to see if that's what I want to do. So again, these patterns are here for you to follow and make these blocks, but you don't necessarily always have to do it the way they, have done it, because it becomes your quilt, and we want your personality to shine through on that. So in terms of the fabrics, what I found helpful And I stopped after 3 or 4 and went and did something else, got, distracted and moved on, and came back the next day, and it was like I had to prep myself again in terms of the color and stuff. And so I would encourage you to go through each of your 12 packs of fabrics in this week's time and choose, it tells you on the back of the card how many fabrics that you need. For here it says 8 charm squares and 4 charm squares. So you're gonna be pulling 12 of these charm squares out of your packet. And I would go through and decide which ones you're going to use from each of your packets, and do that, as you're thinking about it. I found it a little bit easier to keep going at it. And as I worked through on the second day all the way through the last 10 of them, it was helpful to me because I got quicker at it, because my brain and my head was thinking in terms of those colors. So I want to show you the tealish winter blues is what I'm going to call them. And let me get rid of this for right now. And so for January, and I cut them. These were the colors that I chose to go with. And for the center, these are the same fabric, and then these two. I didn't find another one in the pack of a different color to make them 4 different, but they used only two colors, and put it that way. And they are mixing the yellow green and the blue greens together into one block, which is very lovely too. I just happened to feel when I was doing it that I liked going with the tone of these fabrics the best in this. So we'll see how it turns out. And I would love for you to send pictures and share with me how you're going to be separating those and working with them. And as far as the pattern itself, you're going to notice on the bottom, these are 18 by 18. So when we are doing a pattern, they're sometimes divided into 3s, 4s, different, if you will, sections. And this one, each section that they have, and it's going to be true of almost all of the patterns, is 6 inches. So each of these sections are 6 inches. And so, this quilt, I think, finishes, I'm trying to remember, 70 by something, 71 by 91. So, it's about a twin, or a large lap. And at first I thought I wanted to knock it back a bit and make a wall hanging, and I still may go through and do some of that. But if you want to change the size of this to make it smaller for a wall hanging, or if you need it to be a little bit bigger, you certainly could take it up. And so to do that, if you understand that each of these sections of each of your patterns, and here it's this, and then this right here, are 6 inches, then it's easy to know that these have to be finishing at 3 inches when you sew them together. Unfinished, this will be 6.5, but finished, this becomes 6. So you are going to make this half square triangle that's here. It's going to become, a 3-inch half square triangle finished, 3.5 unfinished. And so how do I make that smaller? Well, if you want to take these down to a 4-inch size and make this a 12-inch block, then this will need to be finishing at 2 inches. And there are the star square papers that I've shared with you before that work wonderfully, and I know that this, the Quilt Show store has 2-inch ones that finish at 2-inch. But to know how to cut them for yourself, making them either one at a time, whichever, would be to add the magic number of 7/8. So if it finishes at 2, you would need to cut each of those squares at 2 7/8. And I always add a little bit to it, so I have some trimming down room for that. So I usually would cut them, 1/8 of an inch bigger or so. But you would add the magic number of 7/8. Does that hopefully make sense to you if you want to drop it down? And if you want to go lower than that, the same thing applies. So if you wanted to make this a 9-inch block and these to be 3, this would need to be, I think, 1 3/4 or 1 1/2. So you would add, your 7/8 to whatever that that size or pattern would be. And let me check for questions now, because I've been rambling for a minute or two. Costa Rica, hello. South Carolina. Okay. I see you got snow around. I wonder if you could get a little Kona black and just make your own. Well, certainly. I'm not sure. Oh, Kyla, I like that you're going to use different grays for the background. That'll be fun. All right. I am not... seeing questions at the moment, so if you have any as we go along, please do ask those questions. Now, the cutting. I want to share something with you that I have here in front of me. These are 5-inch charm packs, and I have found this to relatively be true, is how, getting that accuracy back. And I think on the top you can see that those little teeth that are around the edges are beyond that 5-inch mark, as you can see here and down here. It hangs below the 5 inches. But on most of these, you're not going to be necessarily using a lot of 5-inch. You're going to go down 4 inches, 3 inches, etc. So I would simply, move this in a little bit, trim down the sides, flip it, and then you can get your 5 inches or 4 inches, 3 inches, whatever it's going to be from that. And it isn't necessarily always 100% even with the teeth all the way around to say that you can, sew within those teeth either. So make sure of that when you're cutting it for that. And then on the white, you're going to be cutting 6-inch squares. You're going to be cutting 4-inch, 3-inch, some 2 7/8, 2.5, different things throughout the months. And you'll have from one block to the next some leftovers. So save those. Don't throw those away, so that you can use them again. Now I want to look at February. And this one again, just in terms of color, this one has all half square triangles. This right here looks like a flying geese, and you certainly, if you were going to do, you know, these all the same, you could certainly transfer that and make those as flying geese as well here too. But each of these are half square triangles in that, and when you look at the back you can easily see that those are half square triangles. And again, when I was looking at the color, I noticed how much yellow there was, and I wasn't looking for quite that much, you know, brightness in terms of yellow. I kind of wanted to stick a little more with the green. And again, so I went for a little bit of the clearer, throwing in a few tones to give the, you know, the palette some excitement in there. So as you can see right here in the center, more or less, and with this very light one, that I have, you know, a little bit of tone in there as, or shade. And, you know, again, I was looking at both the pattern and what they had done and what I liked from there, and I kept a lot of the more yellow out of it at this point. And so if you're leaning towards yellow, go for it and do that. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about, I was with a group of women and we were sewing community quilts, and a couple of them that were at the cutting and marking table were, you know, chatting it up and talking about that they never got, you know, the somehow they always missed the mark on marking the material, cutting it in half, or sewing it down each side. And so we talked a little bit about that, and what was happening as I, you know, was watching this taking place is they put their ruler exactly on the point. All right. And what happens when the ruler is right on that point on each end, you take a pen. Here I have, you know, my friction pen, and you mark, and I would suggest that you start in the center, go in both directions with your, and my friction pen I think is running out of friction ink. And so I want you to see if you can see that it is off the width of the point of my friction pen. So I suggested that we go back and take the point of our pen and make sure that our, you know, our ruler, and I know this is being real picky right here, but that when I place my point of my pen on that, it hits the point, not necessarily my ruler. And I checked it on the other end, and I'm going to have to make a little bit of adjustment. And so then when you mark it, and I'm going to, you can't really see it because this is a wide strip, a pencil, you can see it better. But now as my line got wider, I'm hitting the point instead of having that, you know, 1/16 of an inch or whatever the point of that is. And then when you sew and you're following that line under, you know, your foot on the machine, you're going to get more accuracy, and you'll have less, you know, material hanging off, and you'll have enough if you want to trim, or it's going to come out more accurate so that maybe you won't have to trim. Does that, hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if that helps at all with what you're doing. And then the other thing that comes up often, it hasn't recently because I haven't been teaching in person as much as I used to, that when you cut, and I'm going to grab a, you know, here's a stack of pieces that I had, you know, cut off of another one of my stacks. And so when you put your fabric there, if you start and push the fabric, sometimes that pushing will change what happens up here. And not so much with the Quilter Select, because it really holds your fabric still, and one of the reasons why I just love these extremely well. But put your blade into the fabric, you know, an inch or so, come back and then go forward. Okay, so you're putting your blade into the fabric, coming back and then going forward, and that cut will be straighter. It just makes that much of a difference in that as you're cutting. So for next week, and we will be sewing next week, and I will show you different methods with these half square triangles, etc. For that. So I will have you go through your fabrics, and if you're going to choose your own fabrics and make this with other fabrics other than the Konas, or even different colors, that's great. And go ahead and choose your fabrics, and please go ahead and cut at January and February, so that we will have those to sew for next time. Or, you know, if you know what you're going to do, go ahead and cut them all. And so your fabrics are right here on the back, and it tells you the package, the charm pack number, if you need to know that. Cutting instructions are pretty simple, and then we'll be going through assembly and working through different possibilities here for next week, and cutting the next ones 2 months if you haven't done that. So let me check and make sure there's no other questions. And so you're going to need to make a couple of decisions for next week. So your decisions for next week are, if you haven't bought a kit, or you weren't able to get the background fabric of your choice. I saw that some of you, the store was out of background. Choose your background, choose your fabrics for each of the months, and then know if you're going to make the blocks 18 inches, or if you're thinking of saying, maybe I want 12-inch, I want to bring that in to be a lap size, or I want to even go smaller and go to a you know, maybe a wall hanging, a throw, even, you know, I don't know how small some of you get. I know I have a friend that takes it down, I mean, really, really small. And so anyway, make those choices, go through and do the math, and have that ready to go. So a couple of things that you'll want to do in terms of next week and that decision making, of either resizing, choosing a background that works for you, or letting your background right now, and whether or not you want to add, where they have put background fabric into the blocks, if you want to add some more color somewhere in there, you know, those kinds of decisions. So let me check one more time if any other questions have come through. And happy New Year to all of you. And I hope 2025 brings many good things to each of you, and I look forward to spending my Saturday mornings with all of you. So send pictures, let us know what you're doing, what kind of background you're making, and if you're resizing your blocks, because I would like to know some of that as we go through. Have a great week, everyone, and I will see you next Saturday.